Some people like just know that they're meant to have kids.
Right.
I was probably like the other end of that spectrum. You can't go to a trade school for this. My piece is learned is forged through lived experience. You're not my dad. I'd be like, I know.
Yeah.
We already had this conversation.
Hi, I'm Tony Cooper, host of the Dad Manual podcast, and I'm here today with one of my favorite dads. You are stepfather of Cadence, of Emery, and Lyndon. Will you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Andrew Adams. I'm a great dad, and I have some wisdom to share.
Yes. So, one, I love the shit out of you. Let's just start with that. Put that on the table. You're an incredible human who I've been so blessed to get to know over this past year. And you and I met through the context of transformation. So we get to have this podcast is really about transformation and about breaking through limitations, fears, insecurities to become the best version of ourselves. But like you, most people I know are so steeped in that. So I love that you bring such a unique perspective to this conversation. You are a gay man. You're in a same-sex relationship. You're about to get married, right? You and Dylan are?
Wedding to come. No date picked yet.
Okay. In the future, you grew up in a same-sex family. You struggled with addiction for a number of years of your life, and then you came clean and transformed. And now you are stepfather to 3 amazing kids. So there's so much in there that, we could probably do an entire podcast on any one of those things, but all of those things make you Andrew. And so what I'm really excited about is just, us having a conversation about you sharing this experience of your journey and where you are right now in your stepfathering. You're the first guest I've had who's legit ass stepdad came into the kid's life when they were full on functioning beings, and you had to introduce yourself to that. So I think for the context of transformation, and the biggest one you've been through was your becoming an addict and then spending the time in your life that way, who you became during that period, and then how you changed that whole story. So let's start there.
Yeah. So when I was a teenager, it started off as experimentation, house parties. It was fun. I alluded to my, my upbringing. I was brought up in a not same-sex relationship at first. My dad was married to a woman, was raised in a church. He was a pastor. We lived with strict rules, lots of, yeses and nos. This was okay. This is not. This is right. This is wrong. I didn't have a lot of freedom as a child. And then at the age of 11, my dad came out of the closet, separated from my mother. That was really the turning point of the structure in my family and the parenting. I'd say the parenting kind of came to a stop at the age of 11 or 12 for me, because my dad was, going off to figure out himself. My mother, obviously was handling her things. And we kind of just went from what felt like lockdown to complete freedom overnight. At least as a young teen, I was kind of excited. I was like, I can get away with things now. I can just leave the house and not have to tell anyone that I'm leaving and come back when I want. So reflecting back, yes, I was, heard that my parents were separated, and it also to me it was kind of a good thing, because I was at the age, 12 years old, 13 years old, prepubescent, turning teenager. I'm like, I just want freedom. And then I got freedom. So I was like, yes. And then as far as the drugs go, what started as an innocent, playing around, smoking weed, turned into high school house parties and really trying anything that was at those house parties, lots of alcohol, lots of drugs. And that went on for years. I graduated high school.
Are you saying that the thing that allowed it to continue to escalate was that the parenting sort of ceased to be any sort of restriction for you? Is that?
Yeah, I could now get away with anything.
Yeah, and sort of how far can I go? Because there's no parenting that's preventing it. Okay, that's interesting point. Okay, got it.
And it was really, I mean, I just fell into it because it was fun. It felt fun. It felt fun at the time. What I know now, many years later, reflecting back on why I did drugs and was like, this feels good, is because, drugs allowed my brain, my very neurodivergent, beautiful, spicy brain, to slow down. So it's like drugs, alcohol, it's like, yes, it was a party, it was a fun thing, but it also shut a lot of the internal noise off. Now, at that age, it was internal noise that I had no training. I had no reference point. I had no teaching on how to effectively manage my emotions and shift my emotions. So therefore you enter drugs, shifted my emotions. I feel fantastic. Give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more.
Yeah. And like it felt more and more like you got to be who you are. Like you had more access to yourself because of it. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then that's where, obviously a very ineffective belief formed. I'm like, I just need to do drugs and then I'll be
Right.
me. Right. And then that led to, teenage years after high school, daily use of opiates, which was my drug of choice, which very quickly turned into heroin, which very quickly turned into a needle in my arm because that was the most effective way. I looked at, effectiveness. What's the most effective way to get heroin into your body? Straight into a vein.
Yeah.
I was against it for many, 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 many years, but at the end of the day, I was like, what's going to get me the highest?
Yeah. And also, drugs are there talking to you and convincing you of things. Like you're no longer just using your own thought process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
And then like physical dependence of drugs is another complete topic.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting when my kids were before they had any real interest in drugs. I don't know, they're probably like 10 or 11. We were driving somewhere and they were in the back seat and they were having a conversation, a full-on conversation where they were like high-fiving about this topic, and the topic was how bad weed is. And I was like, "What?" Like, first of all, I'm not anti-weed. And two, I was like, where did they even get this from? Because I know they're not smoking. So I was like, why is weed so bad? They're like, because it's illegal. And I was like, yes, you're right. It is. It is illegal. And laws are made by people, and they're made by people for very things. And so I flipped the conversation because they grew up in San Francisco. And I was like, how do you guys feel about same-sex marriage? They're like, well, we're for it. We're all for it. Like, you'd be an asshole not to be. I was like, when you were kids, it was illegal. Like, it was illegal, just like weed is illegal. Would you, knowing that it was illegal, been against it? And they're like, no. I was like, right. Like, laws are good and we should challenge them. And I want you to know in your lifetime, weed is going to be legal. So you get to actually have your own opinion about it rather than what someone else tells you. But I was like, right from the beginning, I'm like, I'm not saying you should do drugs. I'm saying I'm not against drugs, but you should only have a relationship with drugs that you can try. And there's two drugs you can't try because they just start turning you into a host. And one of them is heroin. Like, it grows receptors in your brain for itself. Like, it starts to take over you, which you lose ability. And I'm like, I'm not saying that you can't try it because dad's saying you can't try it. I'm saying you can't try it because heroin won't let you just try it. Heroin will be like, whatever you do, you're gonna want more and more and more of me, and I will become more and more the solution to your problems.
Yeah. It's just one loop for me that continued on for 12 years.
Yeah.
Give or take. I mean, there was some clean time in there, but it's 12 years. The terminology that they use is like when you get clean, it's like you're unlearning animalistic behaviors and you're learning how to integrate into being human again. I now like reflect on like why I do the work that I do. It's like how fun. I've gone to the bottom of the spectrum in my mindset of like I can talk to anyone. I've gone to the lowest of the lows. I have been at a point where I had to retrain myself how to participate in society without my animalistic tendencies that I had acquired to get my drugs and get my money for 12 years straight.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of messed up things that happen in the world, but like that's a deep swing on the pendulum of close to dead. Animalistic tendencies. lying, cheating, stealing,
Mhm.
robbing, hurting, harming. Nothing was standing in my way. Nothing would stand in my way. Like the crazy
Mm.
things that we would do for money to get drugs, like that could be a podcast for hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I think everybody can understand the animal instincts and urges because we're all biological, but like
Mm-hmm.
having that be your entire reality, like that's the only thing driving it as a whole. So let's just acknowledge at that point, you probably would not have been a great dad.
No, 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 no. I would have been an endangerment to any child that I was near.
Did you have a desire to be a dad? Like, was that ever inside of you growing up at any point?
I don't really know. I mean, I obviously like I know that it's something that I've thought about, and like I would say that there's always some energy of like that being a possibility, but it's never a belief that I led with of like, I'm gonna have kids one day, like some people do.
Mhm.
Like some people like
Right.
just know that they're meant to have kids and
Right.
their whole life is like the day that they have kids. I was probably like the other end of that spectrum. Not like attached, like I'm like, sure, open to it. Always in possibility, always open to it. But I mean, at that point in my life, no. Hard no.
What caused you to get clean?
I mean, a magnitude of things. I mean, it was an on again, off again relationship, but the last thing was a major car accident, going 75 miles per hour on the highway, falling asleep because I was high on drugs, rear-ending another car, another vehicle on while on the highway while going like 75 miles per hour, no seatbelt on. I pushed that car clear off the highway. I came to you on the side of the road with like a smashed windshield because of my head, drug paraphernalia everywhere. And the first thought was not, did I just kill somebody? It was hide the drugs. I can't go to jail.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Animalistic tendencies. I didn't give it like my first thought. This is something that, back then did a lot of work with. My first thought wasn't, did I just kill someone? As I
Right.
rear ended a car and pushed them off the highway.
Wow.
That's animalistic. Nope. Hide the
Hmm.
drugs. Can't go to jail. And I didn't go to jail. And I got away with it. But then, that day, the person that I was dating at the time had left the house that we were staying at. Like I was on my way back there, had left the house and went to treatment. Like his family came and picked him up because he called them, and he didn't tell me anything. I got back to the house, he was gone,
Mm.
and that was the last time that I went into treatment. My mother was there for some reason, and obviously knew something was wrong, and I just collapsed and opened up and was like, "Yeah, this is all of the things that are wrong," because she wasn't really
Right.
present to or aware of how bad it was.
Yeah. So that's, man, it's amazing like what it takes to get a wake up call. And it's like, it's crazy how many wake up calls you're like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. But like sometimes they're
Yeah.
big enough.
But I mean, that's one of four cars that I totaled in this in a year period.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, I'm stubborn. It was like the third or fourth car accident.
Yeah. And you're still around. Like any one of those
Hmm.
could have been the end of Andrew too.
Yes. And countless overdoses and every other lifestyle choice.
Yeah. So going back to like you being 12, you getting this new gained freedom. And look, that's also every 12-year-old in the world. The next thing on their horizon is freedom. And it's also freedom. And it's like a claiming of myself, like who I am. So, like your story, like how you got there is different than a number of other people's. Like, I think it's important to understand that 12, 13-year-old kids, that is all they're looking for is who am I in the world outside of my
Hmm.
family? And what does freedom look like? And what does joy look like? And who am I? And that expression. So, you found a version of it, but since you've gotten clean, you've been on a real journey to start that process over again and go like, okay, what does real freedom look like? Who am I really? What does joy look like for me? And how do I get to be myself fully? So look, getting clean is an enormous undertaking. Mad kudos to you for being able to go through it and stay clean for as long as you have, because
Hmm.
the numbers are not in your favor,
Nope.
clearly.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Like, how did you get to the place now where you are not just someone's step parent, but someone who is like loving and trustworthy and safe and protective and all the things you just weren't at that time? Like, how did you get to that place?
Many different modalities,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been about 8 years and 3 months. So it's been 8 years and 3 months of a consistent pouring into self in one way, shape, or form. When I first got clean, it was 12-step fellowships until I, outgrew those. And then it was the spiritual journey that I started with getting my, yoga certificate, to be a teacher. That opened many doors, and I went down into like Hinduism and Buddhism and all different levels of spirituality. There's been so many different modalities, and obviously, the work that we've been together in ALA. It's been 8 years of consistent action to swing the pendulum in the other direction. Because it's like I was basically deaf, right? In grief and apathy, David Hawkins, levels of consciousness, apathy, fear on repeat, which is basically spiritual death for
Yeah.
12 years. What I teach on is the frequency of peace, the peace frequency. So it's because I've seen so much chaos that I'm able to coach and teach and have people, transform their lives, guiding them to the peace. Because like now I'm making my way downtown walk. It's like we're going over here because I know where this road, I know where that road leads.
The vision that I'm seeing as you're explaining is like you have tuned your body as an instrument to detect chaos versus peace. Like you
Mm,
know chaos so deeply as an instrument in your body, and what you've learned to generate and vibrate at is a frequency of peace.
mm-hmm.
You're like an expert in those frequencies.
100%. I mean, they're doing a lot of like deep dive into like redefining like brand and mission and all that's, all the business things, that all of the doings that I don't care for it. The BA doesn't matter, all of that stuff, but I'm uncovering a lot in that process that like I've discounted. I even now, like I own my past and like I know the powerfulness in it, and in diving into my brand and all of that stuff, I'm like, wow, I'm discounting myself because what I have been able to mutate, it's like there's no certification for this. You can't go to college for this. You can't
Yeah.
go to a trade school for this. My piece is forged through lived experience. And like I was just like reading something, I was like, whoa. I like it hit me and I was like, I've been disqualifying myself. And again, that may be like the worthiness, the worthiness conversation that's deeply rooted in me. Like, am I worthy of this? Am I worthy enough? Where like I was secretly discrediting myself and my past and what I've come through. It's tremendous. And
Yeah.
it's the skill set that I now utilize every single day. Pattern recognition, I leadership and identity architect, pattern shifting, loop smashing, that type of work. How you create the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
A peaceful, like peace just because. That's the mountain hill that I'll die on top of, Tony. Peace is a choice. No matter what is happening in your life, peace is a choice.
Peace is a choice, but it's also, as you and I have talked about, it's a remembrance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we enter this world as divine beings, and then we enter this plane as fucking mortal fucking chaos humanity. Like that is the nature of biology. I have these windows outside my office because I'm like you. Like I need to be able to see. People who have like their desks up against a wall, I don't understand that. And so I'm looking out
I got a
all the
window.
time and I see nature. And I see like birds and squirrels. I see birds and squirrels in cats' mouths. I see shit happening all the time. Like everything is all chaos at all times. It's all survival, animalistic, like you were talking about. That's the plane we're on. And you were like, I'm going to experience that to the nth degree so I can remember my way back to my divine self.
Yes. And that, I mean, easily put, the work that I do. I mean, I feel like when you walk this path, the doing is always going to look different, but we all have the same message. Let's uncover and have you remember that you are a piece of God, universe, source, you are creator, like that you are the creator here on earth with no ego. Ego is of the human brain, mind, body. I am not human. I am a spiritual, I'm pure consciousness in this human body. You know, the ego came with this vehicle. Like this is we chose this, but the ego came with this avatar.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
something in this journey of life we get to work with, not fight, not try to shut up or shut down. It's love. It's simply love.
Yeah.
Awareness that I'm consciousness, then leading with love. That is the core of everything that I now do. That is the being behind everything that I do.
That's the goal. That's the avatar. That's the highest level of performance that a dad can be in his family. Being that love, because the traditional role of father is provider, protector, approver, right? Like you get approval. I give you approval. You get that from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get love from your mother. And the idea that actually men can like come from a place of love, like it's something, a journey you and I have both been on. Like, how do we unbox our heart? How do we actually
Mm-hmm.
realize the greatest safety doesn't come from protecting our hearts, but actually opening them? And that's just not a thing that exists in a lot of the masculine. And so in you doing the work to find your way to your true self and to your own joy and your own freedom, you also did the work to really craft a pretty spectacular version of a father.
Mm.
And so then, like, your path to becoming a stepdad, like, let's talk about that.
Yeah, it kind of just happened. It's like an overnight, one of those overnight things that just showed up at my doorstep.
No, you created it, right? I mean, like you
Oh yeah,
you
sourced it.
created that thing that
Oh
brought it
yeah,
into your life. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
2.5 years ago, I met my husband Dylan. We went on a date, and the rest is history. But all I remember on that first date, he was like, "I have 3 kids," and I was like, "Okay." Conversation went on and like brought up again, but I have 3 kids. I'm like, okay. And it happened a few more times. He didn't understand the use of this word then, but it was like, I'm neutral. Neutrality, baby. I am neutral. If you are the person that this is gonna be the thing, this is gonna be it, you and I, like you having kids, it didn't impact anything for me. It truly didn't. It's only because of the work that I have done within myself. So like you said, I created the environment to now have a husband with 3 kids, and I'm just like, okay. And like it aggravated him for so long when I was just like, speaking into, I'm just neutral. I don't like that. I don't like that answer. And I'm like,
Right.
well, what's your perception of neutral?
His interpretation.
His interpretation of neutrality was more so like on the lines of apathetic, apathy,
Right.
like checked out. And I'm like, no,
Right.
neutral is just like, it doesn't impact me negatively.
That's the it of it. Right. Because also as a father, you're like, I don't want someone in my life who's gonna be like, yeah, kids are fine, whatever. Like you definitely don't want that. You want someone who's like, I'll love the shit out of these kids. Like, so you going like, I'm neutral. It's like,
And like that's what I meant. What you just
I
said,
know,
like
I know, I know.
I'm like I'm neutral is like they come into the picture. I'm gonna love them as my own.
I kind of relate to Dylan a little bit in that when Tammy and I met, I got married early and I was going through a divorce and I was definitely damaged goods, and I was in a fucked up place for a while about it. First person in my family to ever get divorced. And I was like, man, that's the one promise I made for the rest of my life ends after 2 years. That's pretty shitty. And I was still working through that. And I was bartending, and because I'm a social person, and it was a nice safe way to like talk to people without it leading to anything. And anytime anything would get a little steamy or interesting, I would just always go like, well, I'm going through a divorce, which was just bizarre for like a 26-year-old kid who also I looked like I was 21 to say. And so it was like the easiest, like, get out of jail free card ever. I'd say it and they'd be gone. And then when I meet Tammy, I was like, all right, this is getting a little interesting and I don't want it. So I'm just going to throw it out there. And I was like, I'm going through divorce. And she was like, okay. The same way you were like, okay. Like, she was so neutral about it. I was like, what's wrong with this? And then she eventually said, I'm divorced too. And I was like, what? Like, that changed everything for me. And so I think even in your, however you interpreted neutrality, the fact that you were just like, okay. And like, I think what you're saying is like, I like you. And if kids come with the package, fucking fantastic. I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I can love you through whatever you think is an obstacle is a pretty sweet moment. So I'm sure he
Mm.
also had that experience.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way that you just said that. Loving them through what they believe is an obstacle. You gotta like put that in a quote.
Make some t-shirts.
Make some t-shirts. That's truly the work that I do with my clients. I've never heard it reflected that way. Right? Loving people through what they believe to be truth. Even when
Yeah.
you know, you're like, when people are like, I don't have money, like loving people through scarcity, I would
Yeah.
say is like one of the most beautiful and challenging things to do because like it's not real. Money's not real.
Money's not real. So yeah, but scarcity is real.
Matrix.
Scarcity is very real. But scarcity to me is the whole origin of why we even have money. Because if there was so much money that everybody had it, it wouldn't be worth anything. The whole idea of economics, supply and demand, like
It's
it,
scarcity. If every single human on this planet was operating from the lens of abundance, nothing would cost anything.
yeah, yeah,
There would be no need. Houses don't cost anything. Electricity doesn't cost anything. Gas doesn't cost, you know what I mean? Like all of these things, they don't cost anything.
yeah,
That's abundance. There's always enough. You're
yeah.
always going to be provided for.
That's the mindset of abundance. Abundance is the idea that there's enough to go around. Scarcity is the mindset of there isn't. I mean, it's just a decision. I watch a lot of movies with my kids, but Pixar's The Incredibles is a super great movie. The villain in that movie has developed technology to make everybody a superhero. Like, everybody can become a superhero. And he's like, when everybody's super, then nobody is super. And it's that whole idea of like, yeah, if everybody's rich, nobody's rich. Like, we can't have that. Capitalism doesn't work that way. And so,
Nope.
but coming from, love, back to love is abundant. Like, that's the other funny thing, because you mentioned, you and I relate about the power of love. And love is the only thing there actually truly is the most abundant of. There's like, if I love you with all of my heart, there's still more love. Like, there's always enough love to go around. And so you meet Dylan, you've now just done this work to transform yourself. You're like this source of love. And then you're like, okay, now I love this guy. I want to marry this guy. I want to spend the rest of my life with this guy. And I've got these three little beings that are part of the package. So how was that for you? How did that come to be what it is now?
The word neutrality is just replaying in my head over and over and over and over again. Again, because I entered this situation with so much understanding of myself, obviously that makes me more understanding of children and of people. That like when they did enter my life, of course, like in the beginning it was awkward because like, of course it is. It's like this random person that we're meeting, this new person in my life, kids are weird, but I mean, from the get-go, I was like, I'm not going to push this. There's not going to be pressure. I'm just going to, show up as me, show up in love. And over time, the relationship has built and there hasn't ever been this force or need for it to grow or like pressure for it to grow. Our relationship has definitely grown very organically. And I mean, now we're at a point where they listen to me, they respect me. I'm watching them and Andrew says something like we get to listen. And there's never really been, I mean, kids will be kids, but there's really never been any situations or instances where they're completely defiant to the point where I want to put them in a closet. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're very well behaved kids. And again, it's how I'm showing up to, how I'm being. And then therefore I'm able to reflect back to them what a healthy relationship could look like for them to choose into, of which they always have a choice. Right. And I wouldn't say like discipline them because it's like, I don't want to be the one to discipline your kids. Dylan's their
Right.
dad. I'm like, that's like I feel like in my mind, it's like a 10-year plus thing. Is there gentle discipline? Of course, where I give them two choices. The way that I see it as the adult, you've got two choices. You can either, stop doing what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and this happens, or, you can continue down this path that you're currently walking and I can let you know that this is what's going to happen. So in this
Yeah.
moment, make a choice.
Yeah.
And you're not, and let them know. I'm like, it's not wrong for the choice that you make, but just know that every choice has a consequence, right? Every choice has a result, cause and effect, has an effect.
Yeah, you get to take responsibility for the choices that you make and whatever results come from that. In parenting, there's always this moment of like, just like in a police interrogation, like, all right, you be good cop, I'll be bad cop. Like, I think parents, when they figure out their roles and who's going to do what, it actually works really well because you're being a team and you're also understanding that the kids need both. But it's almost like, I mean, I have no experience being a step parent, but like as a step parent, I'm like, so I always get to be the fun one. Like, is
Yeah,
that like the bonus?
I get to be the fun one. That's the truth. And like, again, there's been instances where I was not the fun one,
Mm-hmm.
but there was, because of, again, there was no force in the relationship build. It's like there's respect there. And I talk to them like they're little adults.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes I have conversations with them as the same conversations that I have with coaching clients.
What's their attention span and interest or like connection to that level of conversation that you found? Right. What are they at 6, 7, and 9, right?
And my words are small, and I'm speaking in shorter sentences, and I'll probably, most likely repeat myself, but the context of what I'm saying, even the example that I just gave you is like, okay, we got this one choice, the road leads here, or we got this other choice, the road leads here. Again, you got two lanes, love, fear, vision, fear, faith, fear, chaos, peace, whatever. It's always just two lanes. There's no in between. Then you get to pick. I mean, that's what I do with my coaching clients every
Mm-hmm.
single second. Up, fork in the road, pick a direction. Fork in the road, pick a direction. Nonstop. This happens all the time. Every single time you make a choice, you have a decision. You make a choice from vision or you make a choice from love. Now that I'm like saying that, it's really cool. I like get to like be a part of like little humans' development.
Yeah,
So that like
absolutely.
maybe not even maybe like when they do get older, like these teachings, these ways of being are already embodied in them by the age of like 16. It's like their life is going to look completely different versus if I were not to be here or if I would have not to have shown up. I'm creating impact. I'm creating legacies these little these cute little humans.
I hear from a lot of people like, yeah, I had my parents, I had my mom and my dad, but I had this like really cool aunt or I had this really cool uncle who like spoke into me. And then like when things got hard, especially when we get into teenager years or tween years where they just start becoming more of an interesting version of themselves and their job is to push off of parents. Like that's the easiest thing in the world to do as a teenager is
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, I'm going to make my parents wrong as to find myself. And I took the philosophy, I'm like, okay, but what if you tried to find yourself without making anybody wrong? Like, what if you just found yourself? And what if I was supporting you to find yourself? So that's what I kind of hear you. Because like a lot of people are like, well, some things happened and I didn't talk to my parents. I talked to my aunt about it. I talked to my uncle about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because with some step parents, it's this, you're not my dad, like, because there's another dad out in the world, but you're like, the dad's right there in the room. Like the only other parent out there in the world is their mom, and you're not even trying to be their mom. So there, it's sort of an interesting, like, how have
Yeah.
you found all of that dynamic?
Well, I mean, I've had conversations with them. If like there's something, there's context that I need to land with them. I've spoken into, I am not your dad. I am simply the adult I am simply the adult in the equation right now that's watching you. Therefore, my say goes. I'm simply the adult. You're, 6, 7, 9 years old. I know that you think that you can make decisions. You want to make adult decisions. You'll be able to one day. In this moment, I'm the adult. So like I've had that conversation. I don't even feel like that will come up. Like if they were to say like, you're not my dad, I'd be like, I know.
I'm trying to be. Yeah.
we already had this conversation. I'm simply the adult.
Yeah. And you're somebody who's very important in their dad's life. And so that whole that a family's emerging, like you are the adult and you're not trying to be anyone's parent, but there's a family you're inside of now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's sort of an interesting thing to kind of go from the place of like, I don't know, I never really thought I even wanted to be a dad to now all of a sudden I'm a father. I'm a parent. I'm inside of a family unit. And so how are
I
you
don't
experiencing?
like I love his kids and I'm building everything that I'm building with them in mind. Like they are part of the vision, but there's no like moment where I'm like, oh, I have kids now. Like it's never, it's never become like, I mean, granted, they're again in those moments that they're not cooperating, sure, but there's never been any like ineffective emotions present when I'm like, I have kids now.
Uh-huh.
Because then this is just a conversation of scarcity. They didn't take anything from me, right? They're
Right.
not taking anything from me by coming into my life because I am full, I am complete. Kids, husband, they're never going to complete me. So it's like they're coming into my life. I'm already whole and complete. So they're just adding to it. There's been no like, I don't know, ill will. I don't like to use the word positive or negative, but there's been like no negative emotions.
Right.
There's no resistance.
And I'm going to take you right back to like when Dylan goes, I've got 3 kids. And you're like, okay, I'm neutral about that. And that's the through line. The neutrality is I'm not a victim. I'm not at the effect. I'm not burdened by it. Okay. Like it is part of what I'm saying yes to. Like that steak comes with a side salad. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I love both of those things. Makes the steak even better.
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you're pointing to is it's easy as a parent to feel there's a burden. It's easy as a parent to think like, oh, these kids have taken this thing from me, whatever it was, forgetting the fact that we are the one who chose it. Like it is the result of the thing that we picked. Like we chose, they didn't ask to be brought into our lives. We did. And so there is something about that, how you're holding it, that feels really pure and clean and beautiful and a nice environment to grow up inside of, which is no matter how fucked up a situation gets, the kids aren't ever made to feel like they did something wrong.
Yeah. Oh, this episode could probably trigger a lot of parents. You're by saying your kids never have the ability to take anything from you unless you give them the ability to take things from you. I hear it. Like I'm obviously surrounded by parents and people having babies. And it's like, that's a very common theme or belief that like having kids means you've lost a part of yourself because you've given up blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, well then your choice to have a kid was not made through the lens of vision or love. You're like, this kid is going to fix something. And then the kid comes and doesn't fix the thing that you thought it was going to fix. And you're like, well, screw this little fucker. And now the whole life, the whole baby, infant, child, you have the belief running that this child is taking something from you. It's like a constant energy of resentment.
Yeah.
That's prevalent. Not everyone. I know amazing parents that don't lead with that energy. And it's very prevalent. My kids take stuff from me. And it's like, what?
Right.
You're a victim to your kids? I hear my mother, all of the shit that oh my God. And then, that's another podcast episode 2.0. I lived with it. I lived with it, in the mindset I was taking something by existing. Right. That's the fucked up part. By existing. And it's like you chose, like you just said, you chose. You chose to put me here. Two to tango. You made that decision. Now I'm here. So, yeah, no, doesn't work.
Brother, I love you so much. I'm so happy that we had some time to talk about this. There's so much more for us to cover, and I think we can start wrapping this episode up. However, what I would love for you to think through is the stepping into becoming a stepfather and all that's entailed. That's such an interesting entrance into relationship because it's already much more complex and multidimensional than the ones we normally step into. And you're stepping into a brand new relationship with somebody that you love and all these additional beings that are part of the package that you're learning to do it. So in everything that you've learned and did and worked on yourself and we're very intentional about, what was the thing that you would say was the most valuable part or the best mindset or thought process or approach? If you're giving advice to somebody who's just stepping into step parenting beings, what would you impart to them?
Take it slow. Allow the children to come to you, that nothing needs to be forced. And also, I put myself in their shoes quite often, remembering myself as a child. And if for some reason I was in the situation and some random person just showed up, right, child, of course there's going to be a period of adjustment. And that is where I feel like if someone is moving from the energy of I need these kids to like me, there's a lot of force there. And then you can, be going over the top or being overbearing. And I feel like that's the easiest way to shut kids down. So take it slow, allow kids to come to you. Nothing needs to be forced. And remember yourself as a child.
Yeah, that's great. Don't require anything of them. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, there's nothing that you need to do. It's in the beginning period, you just get to exist. That's all that you can do. You just get to exist until the next step is required. And you will know when that time comes.
Right. I love it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Love you so much.
Love you too.
Okay, until next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
I just want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Dad Manual Podcast and for supporting dads to become the best version of themselves as they strive to bring healing and inspiration to their families. I'm looking to grow a community of fathers who are ready to change the world, but I need your help. It's super valuable to the podcast when you like an episode, when you leave us a rating and subscribe to our YouTube channel, when you follow us on Instagram at the Dad Manual Podcast, and maybe even the most important, when you share the podcast with the dad you love. Also, you can impact what we talk about here. If you've got questions or topics you want me to explore, email them to me at dadmanualpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to answer your question on our next episode. And until next time, I'm Tony Cooper, and this is the Dad Manual Podcast.